Welcome to the AlphaWarrior Show. We're excited to share diverse perspectives and expert insights with you. Please note that the views and information expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the AlphaWarrior Show, its management, or our partners. Each of our affiliates and sponsors and partnerships is a separate entity, and their opinions are their own. Today's content is provided for information and educational purposes and should not be taken as specific advice, whether it be financial, medical, or legal. While we strive to present accurate and useful information, we cannot guarantee its completeness or relevance to your specific situation. We provide all information as is and encourage you to consult with a professional advisor to address your specific individual needs. Your use of any information from this broadcast is entirely at your own risk. By listening further, you agree to identify and protect the AlphaWarrior Show and its associates from any claims or damages arising from your use of this broadcast content. Changes to this disclaimer may be made at any time and will be done effectively immediately upon posting or broadcasting. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you find the episode both informative and thought-provoking. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
How's it going, everybody? This is the AlphaWarrior Show. I am your host, Alpha. What an awesome episode do we have lined up for you guys tonight? We've been talking about, are we the only ones out here in this grand universe, or are there others? And what about the stories people have heard? What about the context? Well, you're going to get some answers tonight. Got a very, very special guest for you guys, and we're going to talk about her in just a second. But before we do, I got to make sure I keep the lights on here. I got little mouths that are just crawling around everywhere and they want to eat. But I will tell you guys this, you're going to want to clip a bunch of the things that are talked about tonight. And as always, the links to follow my guests are down in the description below. So if you're driving and listening, don't need to pull over. But when you have a chance, just go down there, click them, support the people that come to this show. So with that, let's get to some of our amazing sponsors. And when I come back, I have an awesome show lined up for you guys. See you in a minute.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
I'm excited to announce we're having a huge MyPillow spring sale, and here's a few examples. Buy one of our MyPillow 2.0s, you get another MyPillow 2.0 absolutely free. Made with cooling technology, the best pillow ever just got even better. And this just in, 9 brand new colors and styles of our Percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98. And for the first time this year, I'm bringing you our My Slippers and Sandals for as low as $25 a pair. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your MyPillow 2.0s. Buy one, get one free. Percale sheets as low as $24.98. My Slippers and Sandals as low as $25 a pair. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free.
You heard that right. Ships absolutely free. That is My Pillow or My Store. Mike sells more than just pillows, you guys. Promo code Alpha works at both of those. And I know AlphaWarrior Show, Pet Club 247. That's so long, Alpha. I know, so I cheated and I made it even shorter for you guys. AlphaWarrior247.com will take you right there to get those awesome benefits. Now, you guys, with no more commercial interruptions, so we can keep this content absolutely in its synergy, I am going to have an extraordinary guest by the name of Lily Nova, which is an awesome name because that's the name of my very first daughter, the little girl that made me a dad. So the name Lily is very special to me. She's a renowned UFO photographer, ET contactee, and author. Lily's incredible journey from astrophotography to documenting close encounters with extraterrestrial beings has captivated many, and many more tonight, I'm sure. Her work not only offers a glimpse into otherworldly phenomenon, but also empowers others to connect with the cosmos. So let's welcome Lily to the show. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And I love your intro, by the way.
You know, I need something to make sure that I always stay motivated and tapped in. And
you got me pumped up.
Well, what's funny is, so when I got into this, Lily, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I have no formal media training or anything like that. There were these things in the world that were very important to me, and I couldn't find people talking about them. So I said, you know what? I'll talk about them. So I went and grabbed the microphone and a camera. And then I was like, what the heck am I doing? And so, of course, I had to go and, create my own stuff. So I didn't realize that intros are not supposed to be very long, And so, once I started to network with people, they're like, you got a really long intro there, Alpha. And so I was like, I really contemplated, and I'm like, do I change? And I said, no. Something in my heart was like, this is what I want. This is what kind of captivated my feeling, and my audience has come to know it. So I was like, you know what? That will stay. Maybe sometime in the future it'll change, but for the last 3 years, I was like, it is going to stay. Yeah. And so real quick, in my pursuit of learning more about all this, we kind of talked about the show, because this is all still very new to me. Mm-hmm. Learning about it is new, and the verbiage is new. But what I didn't tell you before the show is I've had some experiences in my life that I knew something was going on. Mm-hmm. Just didn't know what it was, and I didn't really understand it. And I'm sure there are thousands of people that are going to watch this that are be like, I know what Alpha's talking about. And that is why I wanted you on here so much, so you can bring clarity to what the world has taught us to be like, no, it's fake. It's not happening. It is a conspiracy theory. You have a story. So let's start in the very beginning. You were documenting the skies. What happened, and how did you even get to where we are today with your story?
Yeah. So I wasn't a UFO person. I wasn't into, all of this. I grew up, my dad had shown me like ancient aliens like 10, 15 years ago or whatever. And that blew my mind. So I was open to it, and I always loved space. I was very fascinated by space. But, I'm originally a nutritionist. I've got a dietetics degree. That's what I was doing. Then COVID hit 2020, and some stuff ended up happening. I quit my job. Kind of my whole world began crumbling, and I turned myself fully to the stars. and this is in the middle of lockdown. So I became like obsessed and just fell in love with the night sky. I was shooting the Milky Way. I was shooting deep space objects. Like I even have pictures of the Andromeda galaxy. I got really good at it. I spent all of my time looking up outside, documenting with my camera. I had never, up until that point, I had never really had an experience before, but I was always open to it. I always just had a deep intuitive feeling that there was something more out there. I just didn't know what. And one night, it was actually in November 2020, it was getting late, and it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went outside. Something like called me to go outside. I just felt like I needed to go outside and look up at the sky and, get some fresh air before I went in for bed. And whenever I did that, I immediately, I stepped outside and I immediately locked eyes with a hovering light, and I began investigating it. And then I'm like, holy crap, I think this is a UFO. It didn't have any flashing lights. It was moving in a weird kind of cliche circular hovering motion. And then a second craft appeared to even blow my mind, like really blow my mind, because this one was much closer. It was about 5 houses down. It wasn't far in the sky. It was literally like, I was like looking up at it. It was like a big diamond shaped craft. And it had a row of red lights and a row of greenish blue lights, not like any shape of anything we have. And it went up, down, side to side very quickly. And then it started coming straight for me, literally straight to me. And at that point, I start kind of trembling because I'm like, what? My whole world just shattered. Because whenever you come face to face with something like that, it's you kind of go into shock. You're like, what's happening? Because it's just hard for your mind to comprehend it. And this craft went right above me and vanished above my head. And I intuitively knew it either shot straight up very quickly, or it popped into another dimension. And it was still there, but I couldn't see it. I just intuitively knew that. And yeah, so that was my first encounter, and a bunch of other things happened after that. But do you have any questions about that so far?
Well, a lot of questions. Let me say this. That's the visual of what you saw, but do you remember, was there any like physical feeling you had? Like, did you feel energy? Kind of like when people say the experiences like with ghosts and things, there's temperature changes. Was there any like physical changes that you felt during that experience?
Yeah. So, well, like I said, I felt like kind of called to go outside and look up. And then whenever I saw that first hovering light, it was far enough away, but it was like above the neighborhood. I couldn't make out any detail. It just looked like a big light. Then I got excited because I'm like, holy crap, what is this? And then before that second craft appeared, there was actually an orange light, a very strange orange light that appeared at the end of my street. It was the street lamp, but it was not the normal color. It was like this really bright orange. And whenever I looked over at it, drew my attention, suddenly, like it felt like time froze, like time stood still. That was the feeling I got. And then I just kind of looked around and it was like dead quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And then whenever I looked back over, the second craft appeared seemingly out of thin air. And at that point, things just kind of happened quickly, but I don't really know how to explain it. Just a paradigm shifting, like you're almost kind of in shock. And it came so close to me and literally came straight towards me that it kind of like freaked me out. But the first time kind of freaked me out, but then it got like a whole lot cooler.
So the shock caught you by surprise, but once you actually got to put yourself in the experience, and it seems like you kind of just calmed down with it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like scared, but I was just like, holy crap, because it was such a close experience, and they made it very clear. It wasn't like I just saw something. It was literally, it came straight, towards me. So it knew I was there. Like I felt like it was like there's beings in there and they are looking at me right now. That's just an interesting feeling.
It is. And I'm sure people can resonate with that, because how many times have we felt, you're at a mall or a restaurant or bar, and you're like, you feel someone's looking at you, turn around and there's someone's looking at you. Like there's something to be said about feeling energy when something's looking at you. Yeah. And so I absolutely believe that could be the experience with, extraterrestrials. So let me ask you this question. Mm-hmm. What is the proper term when we refer to other beings? Is it extraterrestrials? Is it beings? Or there are so many of them that it just kind of depends?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this earlier. So extraterrestrial, I guess I call them ET for short sometimes, but really they're just like, since I've gotten to know and see them, uh, they're just like people like us. There's many different races. There's a lot of variety out there, but really they are just advanced sentient beings like us. So the term that I discovered that sounds a little bit nicer is star beings or star people. So you can call them that or ETs, extraterrestrials, but really they're just people from the stars.
Well, people from the stars is going to be something, if we don't cover it earlier, definitely I'm going to ask you about later from different things that I've been studying.
Mm.
So after that experience happened and, you go back inside, what was going through your mind? Were you like, did that just happen? Did you feel self-doubt? How did that happen? And then how did you choose to like, how do I document this? Do I tell people? Do I not tell people? What was that like?
So I actually I was so energized after that, like that woke me up. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, but I drove around. I just got in my car because I didn't know what to do with myself. So I just drove around and I was looking up like, is there anything else weird? Are there any other ones? I didn't know what was going on. And after that made me curious. So I'm like, I need to figure out what I just saw. I was like, okay, aliens exist and they are here. And I just saw them. So I started kind of doing some research. I remember this book popped up in my head that a friend had given me years before, and it just popped in my head. And I was like, I need to find this book, and I hope that it talks about ETs in it. Funny enough, a thought popped in my head, check the closet, rummage through my closet. I find the book that I haven't seen in years. I start looking through it. Sure enough, it talks about extraterrestrials and this great shift and awakening and like rising of humanity that's happening. And I'm like, oh my God. So it kind of like that helped kind of build a basic foundational understanding of the experiences that would then come and what I was realizing what was really happening here.
Well, what was the book? If you remember.
Yeah, it was called the Gaia Project, and it also talks about ghosts. It talks about dimensions. It talks about frequencies. It talks about a great awakening, a great shift. Yeah, it was called the Gaia Project, and then it says, I think 2012, because apparently 2012 is what marked like the beginning of this shift, but it's like really like we're in the midst of it right now. The Gaia Project, the Great Shift of Consciousness, something like that. 2012. Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to be looking for it. And I'm sure the audience is like, thank you for asking, Alpha, because we want to go read this book.
Yeah. It was really helpful.
So, but to kind of add more to, the great shift, the great awakening, or even the moment where you felt something tell you, do you think that some of these things that we kind of write off as, oh, I just had this feeling or I had this subconscious thought, do you think there's more to that than what I'm sure sometimes we do, but do you think sometimes we are receiving communications? We just don't understand that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And there's this realm and this energy that's literally all around us and within us at all times. So that could be source or the creator or God, whatever you want to call it, that's communicating with you too. But then also these beings can communicate with you in that way. So they actually, and through dreams is another way. So the person, I can't remember his name, the person who came up with the periodic table, that came to him randomly in like a vision, or a dream. It was either a vision or a dream. If it was a vision, I think he was in the bathtub or something, and suddenly he just got this whole download of the periodic table. I 100% believe that was communication. So things like that happen all the time, and it can even be something more subtle, like I feel like I need to turn right instead of go left, or little things like that.
I find that fascinating, and trust me, we're going to get into that more in a little bit. But you made me think of something I don't want to forget. With the periodic table and the guy being in the shower or bath or whatever it is. Why is it? Because I hear so many stories and water always seems to be involved, whether it was raining and I felt this, or I was in the ocean, or I was surfing. Why is water such a consistent variable in all these stories?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? So water is a great conductor of energy. And it also helps, it can also be very relaxing. So you might notice while you're taking a shower, that's where you get like great ideas or revelations come to you. Um, and you can also use water to kind of amplify your intention. Um, so I like to take like baths and showers and do meditations in there because I get a lot of great information and have a lot of great kind of downloads and revelations that come through with the water. So it's really fascinating. But basically, it's a conductor of energy.
Well, it's very fascinating to me because I'm drawn to water. I love going swimming. One of my favorite running routes, it involves a waterfall. Yes, you guys in Southern California, even out here in the desert, we have freaking waterfalls. So you have this experience, it kind of puts you down this new trajectory, and you start to photograph this stuff and to document this stuff. Kind of tell us, what is some of this photographic documentation, or some would argue evidence? What has that been like for you? Like, what are some of the things you've been able to capture?
Yeah, that's been amazing. And if you want, I could share. I don't know if you have the
Absolutely.
yeah, I could share some of my some of what I've been able to capture. So I'll just briefly kind of give a little bit of context. So that I tried telling people after that first experience, nobody believed me, of course. Then they gave me about a month or 2 months to process. I'm saying the ETs gave me a couple months to kind of process that. And then I was by myself at an astronomy park. Again, it's like 1 something in the morning in January 2021. And suddenly I get this weird feeling and I look over and there's a craft on the tree line. Then I looked over to the other side, there's another one over there. I look behind me, there's 2 craft behind me, and then I look in front of me and there's lights in front of me that weren't there before. So I was literally surrounded by these UFOs. But I was in my car and my car wasn't started, and I got some footage from that. I'll show you in just a second. So I'm surrounded by cornfields. I'm the only one around at this rural astronomy park. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And my thought was, I don't know if they know that I'm here because my car wasn't on. So I'm just going to be sneaky and just start recording them so that I can have proof. And so I literally spent all night. I was trying to wait them out, but they did not leave. Like they kept going back and forth, and some other weird stuff happened. But I got a lot of footage of them. And then after that, they just started popping up everywhere. And then I was like drawn to it. I was like, I want to know who these beings are, why they are here, what's going on. Cause I also felt like there's a lot of secretive stuff happening. This is before, right around that time, in the COVID bill, it came out that I don't think a lot of people knew this, but there was like this little sneaky part in the COVID bill that said that all of these agencies had to hand over all of their UFO evidence. Did you hear about that?
I do remember something. I'm trying to remember what it was, because at the same time that came out, there was some weird thing that came out also with Amazon's terms for service.
Really?
That, yeah.
Okay.
I'll just share it. But
Okay.
I don't want you to lose that thought. But and I don't think it's still there. But if you do the time machine, you can go back and look at. But if you guys go and just go to the devil's Google and put in Amazon terms of service zombies, you're going to find out they actually have a section in there
Oh my
that
God.
talks about how some of the stuff that you order and all this stuff um, can't be used for things that have to do with, the zombies having, attacking or an apocalypse. I mean, it's been quite a few years since I read it, but just
Wow.
if you guys Google Amazon terms of service zombie section, it'll populate, it'll bring it up, and you can read it and you're going to be like, wait, what? Like, what? And so, but I remember at that same time, there was conversations going around about a UFO disclosure or alien disclosures. There was something else going on. And it's that same time frame you're talking about.
Yeah, suddenly just weird stuff started happening. And UFOs were not in the mainstream before that. They were not. Um, that was the start of it. And that's whenever I realized, holy shit, something is actually happening and something is about to be going down. So I need to really pay attention, and I'm going to try my best to document proof of it and let people know, hey, they're real and they're here and something is going on here. So that was my thought process.
Very interesting. And so,
Yeah.
real quick, just so you know, so down the bottom of our screen, there'll be a thing that says present. And when you click on that, it'll give you the option to share a video file, or you click on share screen, and then that'll
Mhm.
populate different things that you want to share. And the second you do that, it'll bring it up down in the green room for me. And then when you tell me, hey, go ahead and bring it up, I can click on it and bring it up on the screen for you.
Okay. So I am sharing, and I'm good to go whenever you are.
All right, let me bring it up on the screen.
Are we good?
We are good.
Okay, perfect. So just to give a little bit of context, I want to show you guys one of my pictures that I've taken so that I'm not randomly, whatever. Like this is a photograph I've taken.
That is gorgeous.
That's the Andromeda Galaxy, our closest neighbor.
What kind of freaking, how do you get a lens to reach that kind of thing?
It's the Andromeda is like you can actually with binoculars in a really dark sky, you can see it with your eyes as a little smudge. But I had a lens that was 300 millimeters. It's kind of like putting a little telescope on your camera.
That is, our sky is so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing. This is Orion's nebula. It's under Orion's belt. And then this is the Pleiades star cluster. So that's just a kind of a little bit of a sample of what I was out there doing.
Is that the little, what we call the Little Dipper?
It looks like the Little Dipper, but it's not. But it looks very similar. Yeah, it looks very, very similar to it, actually.
The colors are very nice on those stars.
It's beautiful. Okay, so let's see here. So that's not the picture of it. So remember whenever I said I'm at this astronomy park and there were lights in front of me. So there was this craft in front of me and it was really dark. It was behind some trees, the kind of like and it was January, so it wasn't like full trees, little stick trees. But these lights weren't there before and it was kind of moving very subtly. So I was recording it and you'll see like a flash happened. And whenever I like reviewed the footage and brighten it, you'll see a beam of light is emitted from this craft.
Oh.
So that was, again, this is in the middle of like cornfields.
Check that out.
Crazy, huh?
It is.
Like literally a beam of light.
What's so cool is we always hear stories, but very rarely can people be like, well, I have photo or a video to corroborate what I'm telling you. So to see this, it's just like, whoa, like, well, there it is.
Yeah, it's incredible. Here were some orbs that same night that
So now, I guess that's all three of them.
some of my commentary while I was documenting this stuff is freaking hilarious. I want to do like a little documentary of it because I'm like, oh my God, they're doing this. What the heck was that? While I'm recording them. It's just these, there was 5 orbs that appeared in the field next to me, and that's ground level. And one of them split into 2. It's weird. You
There
see
it
it
is.
kind of,
Yeah,
yep.
I saw it split.
And they were just kind of like hovering there, looking all kind of strange. The way that like the light moves, it's almost like an iridescent kind of like moving and folding within itself. It's different than our lights.
It's very interesting. So I'll share a quick little story with you, Lily.
Mhm.
I'm going to age myself here. It was my junior or senior year of high school. I think it was my senior, if I remember correctly. So it was either 96, 97 or 95, 96, but I think it was 96, 97. And I was with a couple of buddies. We're at my buddy's house. It was late at night and we're hanging out. And when I say late at night for, a bunch of like juniors or seniors. So like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. And,
Yeah.
we see this thing in the sky, like very high. Like, when you can see satellites in the sky, like that's how high this was. And they're like, hey, my last name's Luna. And they're like, Luna, because we, football players, we call each other by our last names. They're like, Luna, look at that. And so I remember I looked up and I saw it. And I grew up from a young child with the fascination of jets. Movie Top Gun, of course, it affected all of us youngsters. And so I knew everything about jets, the F-16, Fighting Falcon, the F-14, the Tomcat. Like I knew jets, their speeds, maneuvers, G's, like I knew about it. So I'm looking at this thing high up in the sky at like the altitude of what we would kind of speculate is a satellite. And first thing is, oh, it's a satellite. But then it does something that I knew that at our time we did not have the technological type of craft to do this. So this
Right.
thing that looks like a little speck of light, picture a satellite, is way up there, and it starts doing like a zig and then a zag. And the thing is, I'm not the only one realizing this. There's about a group of about 7 or 8 of us, and we all see this. So we know we're not crazy. No, we were young, but we were good kids. So, most of us weren't high. I'll say that, including myself, and we're like, that's a freaking UFO. Like that's the only thing you can explain it. Like a man could not survive the G forces on what this thing was doing.
Right.
So we're like, what do we do? So we call 911, right? So we call 911, and of course the dispatchers is probably like, all right, here's one of those prank calls. And we're like, no, this is what we see. So they're like, yeah, okay, we'll send a deputy out there. So of course this is not a priority call because nobody's believing it. So
Yeah.
this is going on for a while. It's nearly probably at a minimum half an hour, probably close to an hour when this deputy finally shows up. Tucks his flashlight under his arm, comes up to us, and he starts telling us, hey, what's going on? We start telling him, and he's just like, look at, messing around with 911. We're like, dude, look. So this deputy looks, sees what we're talking about, and he is speechless.
Wow.
And he's like, hold on. He goes back to his car, and he's at his car for a good amount of time. And he comes back and he says, here's the number. You guys can call and report this sighting to these guys.
Is
And
it MUFON?
What's that?
Was it MUFON?
I have no idea because there was no way in hell that we were calling that number. We were like, we seen the movies. You call that number and you disappear. Like that's what happened. So that was the farthest we ever took it. However, if somebody ever wanted to corroborate the story, I can tell you exactly. I mean, we could go back and really figure out the time frame, narrow it down to the dispatch calls. Like it's very easy to research this with a little bit of effort if anybody chose to.
Right.
But it was now, and you forget about it. You're young, until there's other experiences in life. But in the last few years, it's those kind of memories that I recall when I hear stories like yours that I was like, maybe this is exactly what we saw.
Yeah.
What has been the reception to you providing this evidence and story to people?
Well, so I knew after this, because after I recorded them at the astronomy park that night with the beam of light, I went back up there 2 nights in a row, and then I had about 13 sightings within 2 weeks. And then the COVID bill thing came out, and that's whenever I knew it was serious. So then I just felt like I needed to share this. So I created a new TikTok account and started sharing the footage on there. And, I was met with some skepticism. And again, this is like early, right at the very beginning, like January 2021, where it wasn't as much. It was just kind of starting to be in the mainstream, not like how it is now. I was kind of like at the forefront. Now it's kind of a common thing, and people in Vegas are having aliens show up in their backyard and whatever. A bunch of weird stuff's happening. It was met with a mixture of both, good and negative. I had a lot of pushback by some of the very religious people who thought that they were demons, and some people just thought I was on drugs or whatever. But I was surprised by how many people are like, you know what? I've seen something weird too, and I've noticed this too. And they were actually like fearful for me. They were like, you need to be careful because you might literally go missing for sharing this. And I did have some kind of weird experiences seeing like black SUVs and stuff whenever I was sharing the footage. But kind of feeling like I was being followed and watched. But a majority, it's been good. And I think it's helping, and we're all in this together. Like we are the disclosure. What I've learned, we cannot wait for the government to tell us what's real and what's not, because half the time or most of the time the government's lying or not telling the whole truth. Parts of the government, there are good parts, and then there are parts that are corrupt, of course. But by us getting together and sharing our experiences and talking about this and kind of putting our heads together, that's how we're really going to find out what's going on here.
I agree completely. I really want to get into this, the way you communicate.
You want me to stop the screen share real quick?
So, well, I pulled it off the screen.
Oh, you did?
If
Okay.
you want to keep it around, you
Okay,
can go back and forth as much as you want. I definitely want to move into the communications you have with them, but before I do, how vindicated do you feel when a few months ago we literally have officers from the United States military testifying before Congress, and they say we have technology that is not from Earth in our possession, and they I know that when they were questioned, the congressman used the word aliens, but they didn't. The pilot says, or the officer, I'm sorry, says he never used the word aliens, but he says we have non-human biologics in our custody.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Well, I'm just like, why is this not all over the news right
Right.
now? Like, why isn't this for all the stuff that makes mainstream headlines? Why is this like on page 6? You
Right.
know, but it's, if we're either choosing to think that these officers lied, which if they did, that is a huge felony offense because they're under oath. It's considered perjury, and perjury to Congress gets you in, really, deep trouble. I did law
Mhm.
enforcement for a decade and a half, so I know.
Mm.
But how vindicated do you feel with all of this? Just we're being flooded with it's confirmations that what you're saying is not conspiracy. People are seeing this, people are experiencing it. What has that been like for you?
Well, it's been good. I'm like kind of like, come on, guys. Like I've gone through so much and seen so much over the last 4 years that like the rabbit hole goes really freaking deep, like really deep. And there are still, I feel, a lot of curveballs that are going to be coming up. And I get really big feelings about 2025, about big disclosure happening, some big leaps happening. But it feels great because in the beginning, nobody believed me. Some people like mocked me for it. And now uh, nobody doubts me. And I don't care anymore anyway. I walk with, at first I was kind of like, oh my God, but did you see this? That there's aliens, there's UFOs. Now I'm like, like I walk with confidence because I have no doubt in my experiences and so it feels good. It's nice. I'm excited.
That's very cool. And I know because, I we talked a little bit before the show, but I'm very into the geopolitical stuff. And I've been saying I'm not happy with the government coming after our First Amendment or our Second Amendment. And in the beginning of that too, people were like, "Oh, you're crazy. Oh, you're paranoid. Oh, you're this." And now it's just like people are like, "Oh my God, they're coming for our firearms." It's like
Yeah.
I'm like you, like like I told you, right?
Yeah.
So let's move into, you start having these experiences. Obviously, they start to become more frequent. At
Mhm.
what point did you have your first communication with these ETs, and what was that like? And what did they start telling you?
Yeah, so this was interesting. Kind of the first big sign. So all of these UFOs, I'm having weird things like it seemed like they were jumping in front of my camera, like they wanted me to share this footage and so it was coming after me. I wasn't going after it. Well, it was kind of mutual because then I was like, now I want to know. So I'm like, driving around all night with my camera, come out from, behind the clouds. I know you're up there type deal. And they did one night. And I write about that in depth in the book, but I sat around and I was like, I know that you're up there. And I had my camera pointed in the sky. And then suddenly 3 lights in the shape of a triangle lowered through because it was like super cloudy and foggy. It lowered right above me and it seemed to be saying like, you were right, we're up here. And then it went right back up. And that was a big confirmation. And I strangely felt a connection to these otherworldly beings, whatever this was. I felt very like connected to it and I felt safe, completely safe. Um, the first time that more of a communication, so the communication kind of came as like thoughts, not really like words or dialogue. A lot of it came as like feelings and thoughts in the beginning, kind of like a telepathy type of telepathy. And the first time that I got to see, and then communication really ramped up after this. And I had a witness there with me. Uh, we went out to initiate contact around that time. Clubhouse was the app I was talking to you about with like kind of
Clubhouse. I know now. I know what you're talking about. I've heard a lot about that.
yeah. So I hopped on a Clubhouse and that's how I discovered Dr. Greer. He was speaking. I was going into all the UFO, clubs or whatever. And that's how I found Dr. Greer and learned about CE5, which is human initiated contact with UFOs or extraterrestrials. And I didn't know that there was a word for it because I had just started doing that. I was already doing that, initiating contact with them. So I met a friend. He's become a really good friend of mine. He was more versed in like kind of the spiritual aspect, and he had seen UFOs before. So I was like, "Do you want to go try to make contact?" And he was like, "Sure." This is the first time I met this guy. He's like, "Okay." So we go up to this park and we set the intention and asked to make contact. Within 5 minutes, this golden light appears.
Well,
And
can I interrupt you real quick?
yeah,
So when you say we set the intention, what does that mean?
that's super potent. Very, very potent. And it's so simple. You just set your intention and then you ask. It's similar with like on the kind of the spiritual side, or even the mindset side. You set your intention for your goals and you make it very, very clear to the universe. Manifestation, if you know, like law of attraction, all of that, like everything is all connected, how this universe works. That's a lot of what these beings taught me and started like showing me. But setting your intention and then you ask, and anybody can try that. Go outside stargazing and just look up and say, set your intention to make contact with positive beings and say, if you're up there, can you show me some sort of a sign, or can a craft appear? And you never know, you might get a flash, or you might get something that happens if you sit out there with good intentions. They're not going to show up for people who just want to make it seem like it's a party trick, who aren't really serious, or they don't have like pure intentions about it. But yeah, so that's what I mean. If that makes sense.
No, it completely makes sense, and it's so cool because I forget what percentage, but we use a very small percentage of our brain.
Yes.
Scientists told us that,
Yep.
and so there's this understanding of like what are the capabilities of the rest of that 90% or 80% that we're not using. And you said something a few moments ago about that communication wasn't like sentences. It was like a thought. It was like a feeling. And after the show, I'll share something with you. I don't want to make the audience hear it again, but I had an experience back when I was a young kid, and that communication happened like that. The point of this story was, what was told to me was, it's going to be okay.
Oh,
But his lips never moved. Nothing. This person that I was looking at, but I felt that, like, that was the thought. Like, it was very clear. And the same thing, there was no fear. And for being so young, the absence of fear in that scenario, very interesting. And like I said, I'll share it with you. I don't want to make the audience have to hear it again. But it just, as soon as you said that, I was just like, man, you give confirmations. Like, you sharing this is like, and I'm sure the audience right now is like, yes, like, yeah, I've had that. I've experienced that, which is super cool. So you have these communications. Is this something that, now that only they initiate, or have you found a way to where, like, I don't know if like through meditation or something where you can initiate it? How does that work?
Yeah. So, just to wrap up on the first time that I had initiated that contact and that golden, so this is the first time I got to see what the beings looked like, and how they did it was they sent me a telepathic vision of what they looked like. Like, I got to see them, and they also showed me kind of this visual where it was like light going into the top of the head, and I didn't understand what that meant at first. And then later I discovered that it's what's called downloads, where essentially you're being downloaded with a whole understanding of something. It's like consciousness is really the key to all of this. We're all connected through consciousness. And I loved how you talked about the brain, because we're only using a very small percentage of our brain. So who knows what we will be capable of as we use more of it. Consciousness is similar to a computer, where so picture kind of like a whole zip file full of information just being downloaded into you. So that's what they were showing me. And I got to see what the beings looked like, and they looked very human. These ones didn't have hair, and they had light blue skin though. I've also seen other ones with like blonde hair. They look very human. We can get into that more, but after that, communication really ramped up with them. And then I was addicted. I was like, I want to know everything. And so I was initiating contact every single day. I would go out, and I was capturing a lot of footage at that time, and then getting more of these downloads and information and messages. And then after a while, they told me you need to meditate. And so I began meditating. And that's whenever I started seeing a lot with this. with the third eye, what they call the third eye. You can have all of these crazy experiences, very profound experiences with the spiritual side and with even galactic beings through meditation. You can go places during meditation, and the CIA knows about this. They have so many documents on remote viewing, on astral projection, all of these telekinesis, even, I'm sure, like all of these things, especially I think during the Cold War. And in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, Stranger Things is about some of those programs too. So some of these documents are declassified, and you can look into that. But yeah, you can do amazing things through meditation and kind of experimenting with that.
Now, when you reference a third eye, are we talking like the pineal gland that's in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The pineal gland and the third eye chakra, which I guess it's kind of like the same thing where it's connected. So there's these energy centers, and they've known that in Eastern culture for a very long, ancient times, and there are these energy centers: the heart, throat, third eye, and then the top, the crown, the one at the top is where the downloads were coming through at the top. It's so fascinating.
It is very fascinating because, like you said, the government knows. There are CIA documents. You guys have seen the links that I've done on other shows where I go and I show some of the CIA documents, and I'll probably put one across the screen right now so you guys can see. But look at all the chemicals that they put in our water with fluoride and all these things that create this calcification around our pineal gland. Well, why would you do that? Like, why would you want to put a Faraday bag around our third eye? And it's because they understand the capabilities of that and what we can tap into. It's awesome. The other thing, when you keep saying the download, it just made me go back to one of my favorite movies, which is freaking Matrix.
Yeah.
And you get Neo that gets into the chair, and what do? They're giving them downloads: fly a helicopter, learn jujitsu, learn all this stuff. And so it's almost like there's all these, showing us, they're telling us if you're looking and you're paying attention. So let me ask you this: in these communications, what are they teaching you? Or are there messages like specifically for you, or are there messages for humanity? I mean, I'm very curious to what you've been told.
Yeah, so it's a combination. A lot of it has been like my personal development. A lot of it has been about our history. More lately, they've been showing me more about, they've actually started showing me some of the political stuff. So they were the one who kind of brought that to my attention, because there's a lot going on in there. In some of these more positive political people, they are working with positive ETs, and some of the negative ones are working with negative ETs. It's mind-boggling. So that's kind of more the recent, and I think we're starting to see that come to a head with the crazy arena we've got going on. But going back, whenever communication first really ramped up with them, after I got to see them for the first time, they taught me kind of the basics, which is we are all one, even them up there. They're not something separate than us. We are all one. We all come from one source, one God, whatever you want to call it. We're all one. And we are like little mini pieces of God with that divine essence and spark, living a spiritual being, having a human experience. So they really expanded, which I knew that, like I always had a feeling, because you hear in like religious, they're like, oh God, and you got to make it into heaven, and you don't want to go to hell, and God is up there and only the priest can talk to him, or whatever. Some of those, some of the organized religions. And I always felt intuitively, it's within you though.
I'll comment to that. So, because I grew up in a very religious family, like, my mom, we were Catholics, or my parents, we're still Catholic by title, I guess you could say, but we weren't just Catholics. My mom was like, we were Roman Catholics, like the very cultural Catholic, right? But I remember at a young age, questioning my dad, like with confessions, or, people that needed annulments, because one of the sacraments in the Catholic Church is, the Eucharist, which, some people see it as symbolic. Some people see it as a true transformation, that when you take the wine and the bread, that it's the, the body and the blood of Christ. And so I remember, one of my aunts, she wasn't doing it no more. And I remember asking my father, like, well, why isn't she doing that? He's like, well, she can't. And I remember being so young, being like, what do you mean? Like, this is the most sacred tradition we have in our church, and she can't. He's like, oh, because she got divorced.
Oh
She has to
no.
petition, the church to go before a bishop to get an annulment. And so I'm looking at I'm like, you're describing a business transaction, like things you pay for. I'm like, so you're telling me that at a time in my aunt's life when she probably needs God the most, there's all these obstacles and things that have to be paid for. I was like, I don't know. I don't subscribe to that. Like our creator's not going to be like that. Like, hey, do this, this, and this, and then I'll be there to help you. Like, no, it always has resonated with me that there is this direct connection, that there's no need for a middleman. So when I hear you saying that, I'm like, man, I completely agree with you. It's in here, the
Mhm.
ability to connect with our source.
Yeah.
And so, have they told you anything like that we're missing or we're not getting right? Like, have they shared something like that with you at all?
Um, well, I think this is all going in kind of like a divine plan ultimately. But the main thing that's going on right now is humanity. We're kind of stuck in a matrix. Literally, we're stuck in a matrix. We kind of like modern day slavery, really. You get up, you work, you pay your bills, you have to pay taxes, you do this, you do that, you do this. You're addicted to the phone, they're calcifying your pineal gland. There's so many things that we're kind of stuck in the system of control. So the main thing is people need to wake up, and we're starting to see that with like me and you and your audience, and some of the positive government and some of these whistleblowers coming out, blowing the whistle on some of these corrupt things. But also we need to remember who we are, and that this divine spark is within us and our connection to the divine. There's been a lot of very like corrupt and negative programming around, I think, religion and God or source, so that a lot of healing needs to be done around that, because I didn't want anything to do with the word God. I hated the church growing up, and I didn't even really know why. I didn't go to church. I was just like, I just intuitively knew that. And I'm not saying all churches are like that, and in religion I'm sure they get some things right. I'm sure there's some knowledge in there, but then there's also a lot of corrupt things. But really, we need to remember who we truly are. Our past isn't what we think it is. Our history isn't what we think it is. And we need to stand up for ourselves. And another really big aspect of it, which I think is really fun, is our potential. They were teaching me that we have incredibly powerful potential. Like, we are very powerful beings. We're very special. Part of it having to do with like the brain, like you were talking about. Scientists say we're only using about 5%. They also, the ETs were telling me about, they started showing me the DNA. And around this time, they kept showing me the DNA and telling me how special our DNA is. The vax comes out, and it said that it alters your DNA. So that was kind of a red flag for me. I'm like, wait, I've got like aliens from outer space coming to me saying how special our DNA is, and then you've got this coming out that says that it's alters. So it was just kind of like weird. I didn't really know exactly what was going on with it, but I just thought it wasn't a coincidence. Um, with our DNA, scientists also say 95% of our DNA is junk. DNA, it doesn't appear to be doing anything. Nature doesn't make junk. Everything serves a purpose, and it's all in harmony, and it works synergistically with each other. So what these ETs told me was this is dormant DNA that can be activated. And as we activate it, our consciousness rises, our frequency rises, which will put us in a better, uh, more of a abundant, a peaceful, a beautiful earth, like more advanced planet and civilization. And also we activate these dormant gifts and abilities like psychic abilities, remote viewing, things like that. So essentially we'll be like human 2.0 is where we are heading, which is super exciting. That's the obsession with superheroes and all of that.
That is so cool. Not too long ago, I got to interview a woman. Her name's Lee Papa. She has a book, The Temple of the All Knowing. And you have a book that we're going to talk about as well in a little bit. But she had a near death experience, which kind of changed a lot about her. And in there, she talks about these two like light beings
Yeah.
that she sees. And she said that she really sensed a strong feminine energy from one and a masculine energy from the other. And she writes a section in there, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read a quick passage.
Mm.
And I don't know if you would call this a channeling or what, but this was her experience. But this is what the beings tell her. They say, there would be no differences, no wars to fight, no burdens of finance. As with this love, all things for all people are possible. Your limited knowing of what the light is the only problem or issue that you need to resolve. The only issue. As once this clarity is yours, you will no longer seek anything but the essence that is the light of pure energy.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It absolutely is, because as I'm listening to you describe this, is if once we realize the truth and what's there, then all the worries and anxieties we do start to lose their impact on us.
Mhm.
And I think that anxiety and worry and fear, I think it's like that stuff that keeps us from hitting those higher vibrations or
Mhm.
frequencies. So it's so cool to hear that this is kind of what they've been communicating. So how has this impacted you? Like spiritually, your life, like how has this affected you since all this has started happening?
My whole life was uprooted. This took over my life, but I love it. I mean, my mind is blown every single day, and it's so exciting. Like, some of it can be tough coming face to face and processing some of the darker things that have been going on, um, has been kind of tough. But it's been so beautiful tapping into who I truly am and learning and growing and healing as I go. It's been a very like transformative experience. And ever since I was young, my kind of goal or dream or vision for myself was to reach self actualization, and which is basically just your highest potential. And then after meeting these ETs and receiving their messages and developing my own spiritual connection, I realized like that's what I'm doing and that's what we are here to do, which is really beautiful.
It is very beautiful. And that's why I want people to, because I trust me, I know there's people right now that are absolutely captivated. And I know that, some of my brothers and sisters are watching right now, be like, Alpha, Leo, Lily, listen, I'm trying here. I'm trying. And I'm just telling them, just be open, soften your heart, soften your ears, because they've done a very precise job of getting us to prevent. They've affected our discernment. They truly have.
Yeah.
And I think that if you start to open up to it, just
Mhm.
if you feel something trying to resonate with you, quit trying to push it away and
Mhm.
just be like, all right, let me feel this a little bit and just see where it takes you. you know
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
and to the comment, like with the churches, I'll be very upfront on my stance. All governments to me are corrupt. All the churches are corrupt. I've been very vocal about that. You know, are there good people within those institutions? Absolutely. I
Mhm.
think man by its very nature does have good intentions and a good heart. But I think that there's a I mean, power and control is where I see the darkness of this world trying to keep us.
Mhm.
And whether it's done through government and laws, if people begin to realize the truth of the corruption that exists in government, then all of a sudden people turn from that. There has to be something to fill that vacuum. And I think that's where the religious institutions step in. So there's always this institution that exists, to
Mhm.
exert its control over man. And I
Mhm.
think when people realize, hey, all this has been lied to, what is the truth? What is the truth behind my spirituality? And what is the truth behind my search to meet my creator one day? I think we
Mhm.
find that out. And so when you talk about that awakening, I think it's going to happen on so many levels.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking ET, spirituality, government. I'm telling you, I feel like this veil is just going to be like whoop, and
Yep.
everybody's going to be like, wait, what? Like, hold, what? And
Yeah.
and I'm excited for it. Like nothing in my heart is worried about what the end game looks like. Now, I have my concerns. I'm very realistic. I know where there are a lot of people that are suffering in real life right now. I'm not going to discount that. But I think that the only way to solve that heart and remedy all that, it has to start with learning the truth.
Mhm. Yeah.
Have they ever communicated to you any concerns or any warnings, like with the bad ETs? Like, are they among us, or is this something where everybody's operating, outside of, our orbit? What does that look like?
I think some of them are among us. And isn't that crazy? Harvard just published that article the other day saying ETs may be living among us or on the moon. It's like, but it's actually being disclosed. It's crazy. It's everywhere. It's everywhere now. I do think that some are among us, and what I've discovered, do you know, like President Eisenhower and Laura Eisenhower, which is President Eisenhower's great granddaughter. She's actually become a friend of mine, but she's in this kind of truther community too, exposing a lot of the corruption. And so her great grandfather was the president. I think it was in the 40s. It might have been 52 or late 40s, around like the World War II time. Apparently he and the government was approached by both positive and negative ETs. The positive ETs offered, assistance with like healing and medical technology and like positive things. The negative ones offered weapons and technology like that. And they're in the middle of the war. So this group, have you heard of the group Majestic 12?
I have heard that. I don't know a lot about them, but I'm familiar with the name.
I'm pretty sure this is at the same time period, and basically Majestic 12 went behind Eisenhower's back and made deals with the negative ones, and they basically took over and they became like the shadow government. So they got bad technology, weapons, things like that to so yeah, apparently that's what happened. A deal with the negative ETs, and it goes back since then.
I was gonna say that,
it's a lot to process, but I mean, if you do a little bit of digging and research, things start to align and start to make sense.
Well, and because I look at everything through like the operational lens, that's what my background is. And I could imagine if, I'm on the president's advisory team, and it's like, do we go with peace and healing, or do we go with weapons? The first thing I'm going to be thinking, well, if they're approaching our government, they're probably approaching other governments. So what are they going to choose? Are they going to go for, peace and healing, or are they going to go for weapons? And if we choose the right thing, then do we come victims to the ones, like, I can just imagine what that looks like in the internal conflict that existed, even in the people that wanted to mean well, like, geez, man, like,
yeah, it goes deep. It goes deep. And apparently I'll add one more. This is probably going to sound crazy, but again, reflect on it a little bit, do your own research, and then you'll see the dots start to really make sense. So apparently with these negative ETs, part of the deal was, they'll give us technology and weapons or whatever, and in return, we would allow them to abduct a certain amount of people, of our people.
Isn't there a document on that? Isn't there a CIA document or something?
I'm not sure. Probably. I know that some of these are probably many of them are actually military abductions, and Dr. Greer talks about that, where it's literally like like negative military doing these abductions and whatever they're doing, but also yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm sure there is something. You could probably find something on it.
I'm gonna look into it, because it could have been, or maybe it was a document, somebody, from a scholar that they presented it. But I do remember, I don't know why, but CIA or something is coming into mind with that particular thing, surrounding like the Majestic 12 and this, this sinister deal that was made. Like, I just remember, so I'm going to look into it. If I find it, I'll link it down there for you guys to, under the links that I always put for you guys.
CIA is dark. They're dark. Maybe not all of them, probably not all of them, but at the head of it, it's dark.
I don't know if there's any good ones. I yet to hear a positive story yet. There's a lot of stuff. There's a show that I do with a retired colonel, from the Air Force, who's worked in the Pentagon. It's the Operation Gladio series. My audience is very familiar with it, and CIA is always on the dark side of every story that we go and we study and we share. Let me ask you this as we get to wrap it up, because I want everybody to have a chance to hear about your books, anything that you're coming up, and some of the services you offer. But earlier you had talked about CE5s, and that is, what does that stand for?
Sorry, it cut out for a second. What did you just say?
Yeah, earlier you're talking about CE5s, and I know it stands for something. What does it stand for?
CE5 is so it's close encounters of the fifth kind. So there's like a whole scale, close encounter. I forget who created that scale. You can do like a Google search, but they started off with like CE1 is witnessing a craft, CE2 is whenever there's some sort of physical evidence or trace left behind, CE3 is whenever you go up on a ship, CE4 is I forget what that is, maybe like coming face to face with one, and then CE5 is human initiated contact with them. So they're not contacting you, you are initiating the contact. You're like, hey, like, come, hi, how's it going, whatever.
Have they ever communicated to you like how they choose who they communicate with and who they don't? I mean, is it a biological thing they're looking for? Is it an energy thing they're looking for? Is it all of the above? Like, how does that, what have they told you about that?
Yeah, there's some layers to it. So you have to have an open mind and good intentions. So if you're like super closed off to it, you're most likely not going to have an experience, or if you don't believe in it or whatever. So you have to be open. You have to have kind of a good heart. An energetic thing, I'm sure, a frequency, actually, yes, a frequency specific. So if you're like on a very low vibe, because these beings are higher vibrational, at least the benevolent, the positive ones, which is a majority of them. There are some negative ones, but majority are very positive and they're more enlightened, they're advanced. They're higher vibe. So if you're super down here, they, it's hard for them to talk to you, or they won't mess with you. So you kind of have to be of a certain frequency to have that communication. That's part of it. That's a big part of it. Yeah. And yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that.
I know you guys are dying for more, and if you guys joined the show a little bit late, Lily has her own YouTube channel. She has a website. We're going to get into it here in just a moment. Some of the things that she offers. So you trust me, there's so much more you can dive into. I know you guys are all going to do me a solid and go to her channel and subscribe to her content and start educating yourselves on that. But let me ask you this. So there's been a lot of TV shows lately that have come out. I don't know if you've heard about Three Body Problem and some of these other ones. And, there's a lot of conversations happening around ETs right now and vibrationals and, multiple timelines. Like, it is so cool, the conversations I'm hearing. But one of the things that's kind of consistent in all these conversations is, what are their motives? Mm-hmm. Are they negative? Are they positive? We know there's good ones and bad ones. So I think it's kind of easy to guess what the motive is for the bad ones. But as far as the good ones, what are their intentions for us or their motives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this might sound kind of weird, but these beings, whenever I was trying to figure out really who they were and why they were contacting me or whatever, they told me that they had known me for a very long time. And they, like, we have a rich history with these beings. And we actually have some of their genetics. That's why a lot of them look very similar to us. Especially ones, they're kind of known as the Nordics or the Pleiadians. They're from the Pleiades, which was those blue stars that I showed you in the beginning. People have been reporting, like whenever I first saw them and communicated with them, I was blown away because people have been reporting seeing these blonde, blue-eyed, human-looking aliens since like the 40s, 50s, 60s. So this isn't new. They've been contacting Earth for a while. And those are like the benevolent. There are some like humans, there are some bad apples, but majority are positive. So they have an investment in us, if you want to say that, or a strong connection with us, because we are basically like, we're related, essentially. That's why I like to call them Star Family.
So people are going to think freaking Alpha's gone crazy, but I'm going to share.
I know, but hey, everything sounds crazy until just give it a couple more years, or maybe.
I was weighing it right now. I was like, should I tell her off camera? Or should I say it now? I said, no, I'm going to send it. Let's send it. That's what this show's about. Let's send it. So in the last few days, I was having this conversation with someone who's very tapped into this stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I was telling them, I was in the studio and I was, doing my edits. I mean, all about that. There's a lot of work that goes into these things, once you're done with the recording.
Yes.
And as I was doing it, a question popped in my head, had nothing to do with what I was working on. And it was, what's so special about humans? And I remember I was, working with something like, whatever, like, that's weird. I was like, maybe it has to do with the show or something I got to do later. Like, I remember thinking like, I'm really pressed for time now. I don't have time for that. I'll address it later. And I carry this notepad with me, that I used to, jot down things that, like you say during the show or things I don't want to forget.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'll put it on the notepad here in a few minutes. And not even a minute after having this dialogue with myself, trying to get back to work, I received this, I guess, I don't know if you would call it a download or what, but I get this other chain of thoughts in my head that says it was the answer. The question was, what makes humans so special? And this answer, and like I said, I'm limited in what I know. I don't have your guys' understanding. And one of the reasons I want to share is maybe people like you can make more sense out of this now or later. I don't know. But the answer was to what kind of you were saying right now is all these other beings, and I know there's a lot of them, and I don't know their names, but beings A are very pure blood for beings A, and being Bs are very pure blood for being Bs. Like there's no mix between these different entities. However, they've come down to our planet, and some of them have, put their DNA, however that looks or works, into these humans. And then this, entities had done it. So these different, A through however many there is have, mingled with us as humans.
Mhm.
However, what happened, I don't know by plan or what, because I didn't get this. It was just literally a structured thought, was that happened. And the result of that is you had humans that had A in them, you had other humans that had B in them, and they don't know this. And then these humans end up having, relationships and marriages with each other. So all of a sudden you had this human that had A entity and this human that had B entity come together and have a child. And that child now has A and B of these entities in their DNA. And then you see how that kind of multiplies down the timeline. And so the thought that consolidated all this was what makes humans so special is we're the only beings that exist in the universe that have a little bit of all the beings in us. We're the first time we are the possibility for unity, was what was told to me. And I'm sitting here working like, what the hell is going on in my head right now? And I remember I was just thinking like, I don't know what this is about. I don't know why that question happened. I don't know why I had the answer, because I don't know. And so I go back to work, but then I just feel like this heaviness on me, Lily. Like, you need to talk about this. You need to talk about this. And it's one of those things where I'm comfortable with it, but at the same time, I'm still kind of uncomfortable learning. But
Yeah.
anyways, that was less than a week ago. I mean, maybe 4 or 5 days ago that happened.
Yeah, you're getting downloads for sure. That's amazing. And more people are getting downloads all the time, and people are actually like channeling all of the time without even realizing it, like ideas and thoughts and things like that. That's absolutely incredible. And that's really, I mean, that's it. You're spot on with it. And it takes a lot of these things, believe me, trust me. Like, I wasn't into all of this stuff 4 years ago. This stuff just came knocking on my door and just blew the door wide open, and I've been learning, every day. And some of the things I've seen, sometimes it takes you a while to like process it and become comfortable with it, because it's just so different and it's not what we've been taught. But yeah, I mean, that was spot on.
Freaking just, I'm telling you, it made my clock stop for a little bit as I was trying to figure out what was going on. Lily, I have absolutely enjoyed this conversation. I hope we get to have more conversations. But for the audience that just like, I don't want to wait for the next time you bring her on, Alpha, tell us first about your book. I'll bring it up on the screen for people to take a look at. Links are down in the description to go and get that book. Tell us a little bit about your book, and then tell us about, your website, your channel. What can people find there? I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, sure thing. So the book is about my experiences from the very, very beginning. So it walks through not knowing anything to learning. I take you on the journey as I'm learning, as this communication is developing. It has some of my footage. It has QR codes with links to take you to different things. And then the messages that they taught me, and then more of the personal development too, and the healing aspect and all of that. And I didn't just have experiences with aliens. I had after that, I had experiences with Jesus, with angels. Like, it wasn't just past loved ones, which might sound weird, but this whole thing just opened up. So it takes you through that. And then there's a little guide on different popular ET races that are contacting and a little bit about them. And then there's a guide on how to make contact practices that you can do, a CE5 guide at the end of the book. So that's the book. I'm sure there will be, multiple ones to come, but this takes you through kind of the big awakening portion. And it can help you have your own experiences too. It's also a guide. It's a great story. There's pictures and art in it. And that's called Contact. It's available on Amazon in ebook or in paperback. My YouTube channel is called Lily Nova Starseed, and that might get a little esoteric for some people, but feel free to look at it. I do a little bit of a podcast, and then I also do lives where we cover different topics. I do a lot of meditations and channeled activations to help people connect and with these ETs, star guides, also healing and things like that. Opening your third eye, your psychic abilities. I just love that we have all of these dormant gifts and abilities. So I love focusing on that. So you can find that on my YouTube, and then my website is lilynovacontact.com.
There you guys have it. Like I said, been scrolling across the bottom of the screen, you guys. Links are down in the description. Do me a solid, do Lily a solid. If you appreciated tonight's show, go follow her content, and don't just follow it, share it. Share it on all your social media. We need to get Lily's work in front of the eyes and ears of the millions of people that are out there, because the more of us that become awake, that vibration and that energy spreads, and that can be nothing but positive for us. You guys, we ran this entire show commercial free through the content portion of it. So do me a solid, stick around, support the people that support this show, and I will catch you guys tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. God bless, Semper Fi. I'll see you guys next time.
Are you worried about the effects that higher inflation rates will have on your investments? Are you trying to secure your retirement savings against losses, but you notice that inflation is a hot topic these days? But how dangerous are low inflation rates on your retirement savings? An inflation rate of 2% may not seem like much, but it means that prices will just about quintuple over the lifetime of the average American. And 4% average inflation rate means that something that costs $1 when they're born will cost $23 when they die. That demonstrates the danger of even low inflation rates. So when it comes to gold and inflation rates, many investors want to know whether inflation rates have an effect on gold prices. What history indicates is that over the long term, increased inflation should lead to correspondingly higher gold prices. From September 1971 to August 2020, gold grew 7.5 times as much as inflation. Not only can an investment in physical gold help protect your assets against the damage done by inflation, it can also help grow the value of your retirement portfolio over the long term. If you're looking to protect your retirement assets, why wait until stock markets crash and gold begins to rise in price?
Well, what'd you guys think about that? I told you it was going to be an exciting episode. Lily Nova, you guys, her website, lilynovacontact.com. Links are all down in the description. Wanted to set you guys up. We got a new sponsor affiliate, new to us, but definitely not new to the scene. And what am I talking about? Yes, I have been wanting this for a good minute, and now here we are. Let me go full screen with this for you guys so you can really get a good look at it. We're talking about Prepper All Naturals, you guys. You're tired of the mRNA stuff, all these antibiotics, all these poisons that they're pumping into your beef. Well, I've paired up with Prepper All Naturals, and guess what? The website is cool. The name that you guys need to go to is AlphaWarriorBeef.com. That's right. Link is down below. It's on your screen right now. AlphaWarriorBeef.com. The best part is as you go and you find these things with it, you see it right there on the screen, 10-year shelf life. And I'll have some videos and some other stuff ready for you guys, but I was excited and I wanted to be able to get this in front of you guys. But when you go and you see whatever it is you want, whether it's freeze dried, beef steak or New York strip or ribeye, if you use promo code AWBEEF, you get 25% off. No, you did not hear me wrong. 25% off is what you get. And there's all these different combo boxes, all these different things that you can look into. But nonetheless, I'm extremely excited for this, you guys. So once again, AlphaWarriorBeef.com. Promo code that you enter at checkout is AWBeef.com. You can see right here, Clean Cows gets you the 15% off. AW Beef gets you 25% off. It's too good to be true. I don't know how long they're going to let me rock that 25% off. I hope it's indefinite for my sake and your guys's. But in the event it's not, I would say definitely capitalize on this experience. Definitely visit the website awbeef.com where you can learn about this. Our beef is definitely under attack. You guys have heard the spaces. You guys have, heard some of the other guests that I brought on. And, for those of us that rejected the bioweapon that they wanted to put into our arm, well, they said the workaround is let's put these bioweapons into their food. But luckily for us, there are some patriotic companies out there that are trying to get us real, pure, authentic food. And at AlphaWarriorBeef.com, you have the ability to experience beef that is safe for you, your wife, your husband, your children, your elderly parents. But it's time that we start putting the good stuff in our body, not just with supplements and all that, but with the protein, with the meat. I'm a man, right? I'm a meat eater. I'm a carnivore, right? I'm a T-Rex. Now, T-Rex got little arms. I don't want little arms. You get what I'm trying to say, you guys. But anyways, I wanted to come address that personally, let you guys know the new sponsor, new affiliate down in the link below. Support the people that support me, you guys. I appreciate it, especially all of you that have been here since day one. Truly, truly an honor to have an audience like you guys. And, had a little conversation with Lily offline, and 2025 looks like it's going to be a heck of an experience for you guys. So with that, you guys, now I'll turn it back over to the people with the professional commercials, because I just like to talk a lot, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. God bless everybody.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
President's former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleading guilty today to lying to the FBI.
Flynn knew exactly how the system worked. He knew exactly what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding. They had to get rid of Flynn.
There was a moment where I just felt like I was drowning. So I'm in there with these other political appointees. They're all supposed to go in there and tell what they believe to be the truth. What they did was they took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
President Obama said, but I do have one specific recommendation. Stay away from Michael Flynn. He's bad news.
Over time, instead of being pounded down below the surface of the ocean, we started to fight. I'm now above the surface.